Today is the new turn page of a very new subject for me, child development. Guys, what comes to mind when I say child development? Some people may picture their children, some people may picture toys, development. All of these very logical and rational things to think about. I myself might think Jewish psychologist, a very weird thing to say. Well, not really, because we have lots of names that I'm going to be speaking of today, one of which Lawrence Kochelberg, Vygotsky, Erik Erikson. This video is not only going to be a recap of what we have learned before, but also it's going to be delving in depth into some theories that we actually also have took. For example, Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development. He viewed cognitive development as a special case of biological growth, meaning that children actually have to adapt, let's say, to their environment so they can actually learn anything. He also says that the mind builds mental structures that permit it to progressively increase its fit to the environment. What is he talking about here? He is speaking of schemas. A little recap again. A schema is a mental structure. It is basically when I say the word cheese and you immediately think triangle, yellow, filled with carbohydrate, immediately interconnect it with other things that are, well, closely related to what a cheese is. So Piaget's key concept, adaptation, which says that we build cognitive schemas basically because there is lots of information to be collected and processed in our head. So it's basically an organized way of thinking about the world. Adaptation has two complementary processes. One, assimilation, which basically says that, hey, whatever thing that I learned before, I will try to incorporate it. I will try to implement it on new information. For example, an iPhone user, a person that has been using an iPhone his entire life, an iPhone user, when given an Android, he actually would probably know how to, let's say, call someone. And then we have accommodation. It is the modifying of your mistaken schemas of a specific information. A more clear and straightforward example. Say that I am a child right now and I see a zebra in a zoo. I may call it a horse. Well, because they look similar, do they not? But then I'll accommodate and say, hey, a zebra has stripes. They're black and white. So it is different from a horse. So you're fixing your already made schemas. Now, why do we do all of that? It is for the sake of equilibrium. Equilibrium describes assimilation and accommodation, basically working together to achieve balance. It's like, hey, another example. Since I am a Saudi Arabian, we never see squirrels. But if I were to go, let's say, to America, a country that has many animals in the wild running around in the streets, actually, right? I saw a squirrel. I would in my head be immediately frightened. I would say, is that a rat? So I would assimilate obviously what I already know and I call that a rat. And then I would accommodate and be like, wait, no, since when do rats hold nuts? I would accommodate like that until I reach the conclusion that, hey, this is not a rat. This is a different animal by the name of a squirrel. So basically, equilibrium refers to the movement between cognitive equilibrium and cognitive disequilibrium, meaning that assume something about something that I saw. Again, that squirrel that I actually thought was a rat. Me, as soon as I see it, I'm like, wait, that's a rat. That's assimilate. That's cognitive equilibrium. But then I start disequilibrating. And then I realized, whoa, the state in which we notice that information doesn't fit into our current schema. Meaning that I realized that this animal has a different kind of tail that I knew a rat had. So let me try to fix it. So again, equilibration takes place continuously throughout development. It even takes place at higher cognitive maturities, meaning that as you grow up, you still use equilibrium, you still assimilate. This equilibrium, on the other hand, this is the fixer. It tells you that, hey, your current schemas need accommodation. Now, so also not forget the 4 stages of Jean Piaget's theory. Number 1, sensory motor skills. Goes up to birth to 2 years old, and the main goal of it, well, it's just to learn how to actually use my senses. Again, it's pre-sensory. We are learning about the world through our senses, through touching, through grasping, through smelling. The goal of it again is object permanence, meaning that, hey, even if I close my eyes and I grab my mouse right here. Wow, it feels like a mouse. Close my eyes, it is still a mouse. So that tells me that, hey, I've actually perfected my senses. Okay, so right on, how do I even learn after using my senses? Deferred imitation is basically me observing an act and then imitating it at a later time. Let's say, for example, I see my mother opening a door. I'm trying to now also open that door. What do I do right after that? Symbolic thought. Symbolic thought is me using my words to actually fit it in the real life images and information that I am seeing. For example, that is a doorknob. It's symbolic. How? Because I'm using a word to describe something that I used to only know by my senses. So back to this mouse again, with me not trying to knock out my light. Mouse. Me before learning how to actually speak and listen to words or learn words أصلا من البداية. This in my head, it's a mouse. Obviously, I'm not describing it as a mouse, but I know what it is, right? So what I try to do after is take it in symbolism, again using words. This is a mouse. I felt it just now, and my head immediately says mouse. Right on. When I do see my parents actually opening that door, I would immediately start trying to assimilate. So me seeing them open that door, I would try to, let's say, imagine a door in front of me, and I'd be holding like that. Let's try to open that door. Let's try to imagine a door in front of me and me doing that same thing that I saw my mother do. This is what we call pretend or just make believe. Or pre-operational stage 2 to 7 though, that is the actual stage for pretend play. We increase in symbolic thought, our language increases in strides. Substitute pretend play is basically us using certain objects as if they were something else. Limitations of pre-operational thought. Let's not forget egocentrism. Egocentrism basically says that, hey, I think that everyone feels things like the way I do. I've met some people before who've struggled with this. They told me that when they were younger, they couldn't comprehend the fact that other people actually also have consciousness. So it was just so confusing and difficult. I at the time called them pervasive, but they actually turned out to just be normal children, and I apparently turned out to be the weird one. Not only that, but egocentrism includes magical thinking. For example, when did we learn how to snap our fingers and something would happen, would change in the world? This was it. Animism. Animism is the belief that inanimate objects actually do have thoughts and feelings. So this is just like a little contradictory thought that children have. I actually forgot to ask my professor about this. So my question to him was, at the time that I didn't get the chance to, was, hey, since I have egocentrism, as in I'm the only one that has consciousness, why would I think that dolls have the same, but not humans, like inanimate objects, but not humans, but not creatures that actually move? Obviously, inanimate objects includes like things like dolls, toys, probably I would say anything that has facial expressions, right? You wouldn't just hold a fork and be like, oh, that fork has feelings. Not only that, but children cannot, for some reason, comprehend that a property of an object may not change even when its physical appearance had changed. This is called conservative error. It's basically when I have a cake. I have two cakes actually, okay? A cake, the one that's right here, and the second cake. This second cake, I could like cut it in half and make it two cakes. Obviously, it is smaller. Before I had cut it, they were equal in size, A and B. But now since I cut it, the child for some reason thinks that, hey, I'm actually eating more here. So he takes it right there. That is the pre-operational stages inconsistency. Reasons of why the conservative error even happens is centration. Centration is basically me focusing on only one fact or one little detail about a change and ignoring the rest because, well, I don't know, it just makes more sense. It just makes more sense to think forward, which leads me to my second problem that they also have, irreversibility. I have a water bottle right here. Pour it. down another cup, then it's probably impossible to pour it back into the big jug of water that I have. Irreversibility. It is an inability to understand that actions can be reversed. Thirdly, concrete operational stage that goes from 7 to 12. What do we do here? Well, we basically lean into perfection now. We learn how to decentrate, which is of course, the opposite of centration, the one that I just talked about. And we also know we learn how to reverse things. We learn how to master stuff. We can converse. We can understand. Not only that, but I learn how to sequence my conversation. What does that say exactly? It says that I already know how to count from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, but I actually know how to do more stuff now. I know 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 because it is logical. Conversation sequences, though, on the other hand, is basically me memorizing things in a specific pattern without even having some sort of rational reason behind it. It's like number, length, liquid, mass, volume, without actually understanding why I know it. It's just a sequence. John Piaget calls it horizontal decalage. It also refers to the sequential mastery of concepts within a single stage of development. It says basically that, hey, once I actually learn a concept, I can't immediately apply it. Well, why is that exactly? Well, I theorize myself. John Piaget doesn't talk about this much, I don't think. I can actually learn a specific function and just leave it to my brain to try to connect it to other fields that I may be able to apply it to. So hey, once my brain has sorted out all of this information and I am now ready to actually use it into other fields. That is transivity. It is the mental ability to sort things. It is the ability to use previously acquired knowledge to evaluate new knowledge. I would say it's accommodation, it looks like, right? An example of transitivity is, let's say that I am an Uno player and all I actually knew about Uno was that all of these are just simply cards. So they are cards, they are the same thing. But then I learned of new concepts like 4 plus, 2 plus, changing the color, changing the rotation, I guess, right? What does that say? Not all cards are actually the same. Lastly, hierarchical classification. It says that right now I finally learn how to be a racist. I have classifications. So I'll put my Toy Story toys up here, and then I'll put my Hello Kitty toys right here, and then my Ken doll or whatever I used to play with when I was little. Fourthly, the last stage, formal operational thought. This is my scientist, my abstract reasoning and thinking, all blooms and goes ahead and leads me to absolute perfection. Child starts to think logically and processes abstract hypothetical informations very well. He starts developing theories. This is what hypothetical deductive reasoning is. I've talked about it yesterday, but for the sake of just recalling information, for no reason, deductive reasoning is basically me saying, deductive reasoning is when I say that a psychologist has to be smart. A psychologist is a smart person. So when I say Omar is a psychologist, then that means Omar is smart. When I say all cows can fly, you are a cow. So you must be able to fly. It's deductive, right? It's just like we are deducting other thoughts, other potential reasons of my argument that I'm persisting, and forcing ourselves to arrive at only one conclusion. Now, not only that, but propositional thought says that I actually can tell whether something is logical and true and correct based on words only. No need to recreate these events, no need to act them out. This says that I actually finally have perfected symbolism, gestures, what we just talked about. So with my new powers of abstract reasoning and logical thinking, I am actually starting to think that I am indestructible. I am able to now make theories, even though they're mostly naive, stupid, I would call them. But hey, it's a step in the right direction because not only that, but I also have some sort of imaginary audience that I think are actually there. I think that people see me as the actual hero of their also lives. So egocentrism comes back a little. Wow. One very good way to figure out if someone is still an, I want to say, a teenager or an unmature person, that's what I would call it, is if they have this little personal fable again, that they think they are very, very unique and indestructible. Though self-confidence and having an ego is very helpful, though I had one time actually, some dude came up to me and just said, Umar, did you know I'm smarter than you? And I'm like, okay, out of the blue, that makes no sense. But what I immediately thought was personal fable. This guy is as pathetic as a fly, and he says that. And I'm like, well, I don't really care. This is personal fable. Areas of critique include the thing that I literally just also talked about, is that only about one half of the adult population reaches the formal operational stage. We're not actually talking about deaths here. I am talking about maturation, 12 onward maturation. You could be a person that is in that stage later, but is still, I would say, in the concrete operational thought. Still, that is just one of the critiques.